Hello, everybody. Meteorologist Jacob Campbell here with your WeatherNow forecast. So, for today, I'm essentially going to be doing a one video a day for Friday, Saturday, starting today, Thursday, Friday, and then probably stopping on Saturday when I do a Monday forecast outlook. But for today, what I do want to talk about is I want to kind of expand on the Friday risk, and then I want to also include the Saturday risk because there is now a risk for severe storms on Saturday, which was expected, but the SPC has actually put out the risks, and so now I feel comfortable conveying to you what those are. So, taking a look at the Storm Prediction Center risk for Friday, we have an area of an enhanced risk down here in the San Angelo area in kind of central Texas here, and then this enhanced risk here has been decreased in size from it was extended into western Oklahoma, and now it's pretty confined to the central Texas area. And then we also have this enhanced risk, which was also here yesterday, for the Nebraska area, for a large chunk of central Nebraska. And I want to say right now, the SPC is currently talking about upgrading this enhanced risk to a moderate risk. And so if you go to spc.noaa.gov and you read below, if you understand what they're talking about down there, they do say that they are considering upgrading part of this area in here to a moderate risk. And so we also have the slight risk area around, but I do want to kind of talk more about these enhanced risks because the slight risk area isn't quite going to get as much as these enhanced risks. So I'm going to start with the Nebraska area. So with Nebraska, essentially what's going to be happening is you're going to have a daytime cap. And so what a cap is, and I'll show you an image of this in a few slides. So what a cap is you have an area of really warm air down near the surface, and then it cools down as you increase, and so that's a normal, they call that a lapse rate, the difference in temperature from the surface to a certain point in the upper atmosphere. So it begins to cool down as you rise, and as it cools, the more it cools, the more unstable the air gets. However, in a cap, you have a turn. So you have an area of warm air aloft. And so that warm air over the cold air, and then essentially you have cold air sandwiched between a pocket of warm air and a pocket of warm air. And so because you have cold below warm, it's not going to be very conducive to convection, because in order to have convection, you need to have warm air at the bottom and cold air at the top. But now you have a top area of warmer air, so it begins to stabilize itself. But there are numerous things that can cause this to break, such as a front moving through or daytime heating causing the surface, the area that was cooler than the surface, to warm up again, and then convection can start happening at that point. So what we actually have going on here in the Nebraska area is we do have that cap, and so during the daytime hours you're not going to get nearly as many thunderstorms because the surroundings, the atmosphere has to overcome that cap before it can actually generate some of the larger thunderstorms. So you may get some rain, you may get some spotty storms, but definitely nothing severe until you move into the late afternoon and early evening hours, when basically this cap will be broken by a front that's incoming. And so what you'll have then is you'll have kind of this explosion of supercell activity, this explosion of thunderstorm activity within this area. And I'll get to the risks a little bit on the next slide, but I do kind of want to detail that your primary risk for tornadoes is going to be in the late afternoon and early evening hours. As the evening progresses, you're going to be at risk for large hail and damaging winds, but the tornado threat will significantly drop. Also, I apologize if you hear thunder in the background. There is currently a cumulonimbus moving in, and we're under a severe thunderstorm watch, so it's fun. Cannot wait to sit outside and watch the storm move through. But then also down here in Texas, you have the same sort of thing. There's going to be this cap that's going to really prevent thunderstorm development in this central Texas area until mid to late afternoon, when a frontal system, a cold front, moves in from the Pacific, which, I mean, it's going to be far inland from the Pacific at this point, but it's going to move through and it's going to merge with the dry line that's in place here. So the dry line is what's going to be triggering some of the early thunderstorms. However, there shouldn't be a whole lot of those, but this cold front will move through and it will actually merge with this dry line, and then it will cause the entire system to strengthen. And so then you'll have, once again, this mid to late afternoon development of thunderstorms in the area. Currently, some of the models are differing on what time it's going to happen, and they're also not in agreement on the specific threats. However, the tornado threat down here is significantly lower than the tornado threat up here in the Nebraska area. I would also like to point out that that significant severe that I was talking about in my video yesterday is still in effect for most of this area down through from Nebraska down to Texas. So connecting these two enhanced risks, and if conditions are right, we may see an enhanced risk extend. Sorry, I'm having trouble speaking apparently. It will extend from Texas to Nebraska as just speculative. I don't know if they're going to do it or not, but essentially we have a lower lapse rate and a lower amount of CAPE through these areas, through Oklahoma and Kansas. And so you're going to see storms that maybe aren't nearly as severe as in Nebraska and in Texas. But that being said, the models are still kind of in disagreement about it. The NAM is showing that these storms will kind of weaken in the Oklahoma-Kansas area. And the GFS and the European model are showing that there may be a little bit of strengthening somewhere in this western Oklahoma area. But I'm going to leave it up to the SPC because this is their job, predicting this stuff. So I would like to move on to the severe risk analysis. So you can see, as you saw on the map earlier, that there's an enhanced risk of severe storms for the Nebraska and Texas area. And there is a moderate, this part is speculative. I'm giving a moderate risk for a moderate probability of a tornado watch and a high probability of a severe thunderstorm watch. It's almost guaranteed there's going to be a severe thunderstorm watch somewhere in these areas, but the tornado watch will probably be limited to Nebraska and maybe parts of the enhanced risk area in Texas. And you can see this part down here, these severe threats, those are not speculative. Those are official by the Storm Prediction Center, with the exception of flooding. Tornadoes, you've got an enhanced risk for tornadoes if you live in that Nebraska area. If you live in the Texas area, you've got a slight risk. Large hail for both risk areas is enhanced, and damaging winds for both risk areas is enhanced as well. And then anywhere within this marginal risk to enhanced risk area, there's just a marginal risk for flooding. There may be some localized flooding. Flash flooding is not expected. However, with storms that bring a lot of rain, you may end up getting a flash flood, or you may just get, normal flooding as well, but it's not that high of a risk, so you can rest assured there. So as I said before, capping during the daytime hours will limit the thunderstorm development, and the severe storms are forecast to begin during the late afternoon and early evening hours. And so if you live in that Nebraska area with the enhanced risk, you have a tornado threat of 10% within 25 miles of any given point within that enhanced risk area. As the evening progresses, as I stated before, the risk for tornadoes dies down significantly, and so you may, by the end of the night, only see a 5 or a 2% risk of tornadoes, and then your hail and wind risk will remain pretty much the same. And then in Texas, there's a 5% chance. Lightning. There's a 5% chance of tornadoes within a 25-mile radius of any given point. And so it's a significantly lower risk for Texas. However, the Storm Prediction Center is predicting a couple of tornadoes throughout Texas, and they're also predicting hail and wind being larger threats for Texas. Now, moving on into, this is a skew T-map. So it's an upper air sounding, and this is actually just a forecast. This is the GFS model. And so you can see here, this line right here, this yellow dotted line, is what they call the virtual parcel path. So a virtual parcel is essentially a parcel that doesn't actually exist, but if this parcel was lifted into the air by some lifting mechanism, it would follow this path through the atmosphere. And so what we have here is we have a pressure. So this is pressure in millibars or hectopascals. Either way, millibars are equal to hectopascals. And then you also have a height map here. But then versus temperature. And this is all in Celsius. So right here, and then the reason why they call it a skew T is because these temperatures are skewed to the right. So the 0 degree or 32 degrees Fahrenheit, 0 Celsius mark continues up the graph like so. And so we've got, and the storms are moving in. I really hope that the mic isn't picking it up. So the red here is the actual parcel path, or it's the actual like sounding. And so basically what you have in this red line right here is the actual temperature change with height. And then this is the virtual temperature change with height if a parcel was lifted. And so we have, when the yellow line is to the right of the red line, it means that you have unstable air. And so unstable air leads to thunderstorms. However, there's this area right in here that the yellow line dips below the red line, which means that that's actually stable air. And so we've got stable air on top of unstable air below unstable air. So this is a Nebraska sounding. And so what we're going to get during the day, the daytime hours on Friday for Nebraska, is you're probably going to get some elevated storms, which means these are storms that form high into the atmosphere. They don't tend to be severe. They tend to just bring rain and maybe some lightning. But you'll have some elevated storms begin to develop, and then as the daytime heating continues and as the front pushes in, this cap will be overcome, and then you'll get the surface-based storm development, which is when you get your supercells, your tornadoes, your hail, and all of your other severe components. This over here is called a hodograph, and so a hodograph is a wind change with height. And so you can see the direction that the wind's going at different heights. And so what we can see is that in this purple area is actually very long, which a longer area suggests that there's more wind shear. So a higher wind shear, as I've stated in the last video, results in the tilting of the updraft. And so when you have a tilted updraft, it sustains the updraft and it causes longer-lived thunderstorms. But then we see that this is wrapping around. And so when it wraps around like this, that means there's also directional shear, which directional shear is a change in direction with height of wind. And so when you have a higher amount of directional shear, you have a larger tornado risk. And this is just a forecast. This isn't actually a sounding, because this is tomorrow at about... this isn't tomorrow. This is tomorrow. Sorry. This is tomorrow. I'm not exactly sure what time it is, but we do see that we do have that kind of wrapping around of the, and here it comes. Okay. We do have the kind of wrapping around of that updraft, which could produce some tornadoes. I tend to ignore the potential hazard type, because, this is at 10 p.m. Sorry, I was looking at the Saturday and I thought I got the wrong map, but it's at around 10 p.m. Central Time for those of you who will be affected by this. But the potential hazard type says weak tornado. I usually don't listen to this, because there are times that there is no precipitation actually forecasted, and then that potential hazard type will say PDS tornado, which PDS is potentially dangerous situation. And so if you have a PDS tornado, then that means that you probably have an EF5 or a very long-lived powerful thunderstorm on the ground. And because of that, I typically ignore the potential hazard type. But this stuff down here isn't significant to what I'm trying to convey right now. I mean, it is significant, but yeah, I'm trying to kind of simplify it down and also speed through this because I'm already at 15 minutes. So the Storm Prediction Center risk for Saturday is there's an enhanced risk down here in the Texas, just the corner of Arkansas and Louisiana, as well as the corner of Oklahoma. And these storms will affect you during the daytime hours. These are remnants of the storms that were affecting central Texas the night prior that are going to be moving through. And during the daytime hours, these storms will begin to strengthen again, and the enhanced risk area here will get some stronger thunderstorms. Right now, it looks like hail and wind are the primary threats, with tornadoes kind of taking a back seat. However, the models once again are not completely in agreement. It all depends on how much CAPE is actually in the area, and there are a few different things that it depends on, and if those values change, then this could get extended into the Arkansas area, extending all the way to Little Rock. And then in the slight risk area, there's just some general instability in the air that will kind of produce these thunderstorms moving on, hail and wind being the primary risks as well, but cannot rule out an isolated tornado or two. Within this enhanced risk area, a couple of tornadoes can be expected. But I'm going to wrap that up here at about 16 minutes. So I hope that you all enjoyed the video. Please stay safe out there this weekend because these storms will get powerful in areas. If you live in Nebraska, take every warning seriously. If you live anywhere within any of these risks or anywhere at all, take warnings seriously because these things are not to be messed with. And if you're a spotter and you're going out and you're spotting these storms, be careful out there because this could be an interesting weekend. So once again, I thank you all for watching. Please like, comment, and subscribe, and I hope you're having a wonderful Thursday. So thank you all and have a great day.